I go to New York. Chapter 1, Departure from Home. It was a cool spring morning when I packed my bags and set off for New York City, a place I had dreamed of visiting for years. The excitement and anticipation were so overwhelming that it made the entire morning feel like a blur. My parents, supportive as ever, waved me off at the airport. As the plane ascended, I looked down at the familiar landscape slowly shrinking beneath me, knowing I was about to embark on a new adventure in a city that never sleeps. The flight felt endless, and I couldn't help but imagine all the things I would see, the people I would meet, and the new experiences I would have. The images of the towering skyscrapers, Times Square lit up at night, and the busy streets of Manhattan were constantly in my mind. Chapter 2, Arrival in the Big Apple. The plane touched down at John F. Kennedy Airport, and I could hardly believe it. I had arrived in the heart of one of the world's greatest cities. The hustle and bustle of the airport were just the beginning. As I made my way through security and grabbed my luggage, I felt like I was stepping into a new world. New York wasn't just a place, it was an experience. I took a cab to my hotel in Midtown Manhattan. As we drove through the streets, I was mesmerized by the endless lines of yellow cabs, the bright billboards, and the fast pace of it all. People moved with purpose, and the city seemed alive, pulsing with energy. I could already feel the city's magic. Chapter 3, The First Day Exploring. Times Square. My first real day in the city was spent walking around Times Square. It was everything I had imagined and more. The lights, the crowds, the massive screens, everything felt larger than life. I wandered around, taking in the sights, sounds, and smells of the city. Street vendors offered hot dogs, pretzels, and other local snacks. The energy was contagious, and I felt like I could stay here forever. I also decided to take in a Broadway show, a dream of mine since I was a kid. I chose The Lion King, and it was beyond words. The costumes, the music, the acting, it was an unforgettable experience. When the show ended, I stood in awe, realizing I was living a moment I'd always wanted. Chapter 4, The Central Park Adventure. The next day, I ventured to Central Park, a true gem in the midst of the city's concrete jungle. The park's lush greenery, winding paths, and serene lakes were a welcome contrast to the busy streets of Manhattan. I rented a bike and rode around, taking in the views. The sound of birds chirping and the rustling of leaves was almost surreal, considering the city was just a few blocks away. I stopped to relax by the Bethesda fountain, watch street performers, and even joined a game of chess with some locals. It was a peaceful retreat from the chaos, and I could understand why New Yorkers cherished this place so much. Chapter 5: The Metropolitan Museum of Art. I had always been a fan of art, so my next stop was the Metropolitan Museum of Art. As I walked through the grand entrance, I felt like I had entered another world. The museum was filled with masterpieces from every corner of the globe, and I spent hours wandering through its halls. I marveled at the ancient Egyptian artifacts, the European paintings, and the American art collections. There was something magical about standing in front of a painting that had been created centuries ago, knowing that I was witnessing history firsthand. It was a humbling experience, and as I left the museum, I felt enriched and inspired. Chapter 6: The Empire State Building. Reaching new heights, the next day, I decided to visit the iconic Empire State Building. The view from the top was absolutely breathtaking. I could see the entire city spread out before me. The Hudson River, the East River, and all the way to the Statue of Liberty in the distance. Standing there, I felt so small in comparison to the vastness of the city, yet so incredibly fortunate to be a part of it, even if just for a short while. As the sun began to set, the city's lights flickered on, turning the skyline into a glittering sea of lights. I stayed on the observation deck until it got dark, watching as the city came alive in a way that only New York could. Chapter 7: The Subway System. A lesson in navigation. New York's subway system was both intimidating and fascinating. I had heard stories about it, but nothing could prepare me for the sheer complexity of it. On my first attempt to navigate the subway, I ended up taking the wrong train and found myself in a part of the city I hadn't planned to visit. Instead of panicking, I decided to make the most of it. I got off at a random station and explored the area. It turned out to be a vibrant neighborhood with art galleries, cafes, and hidden gems that I would have missed if I had stuck to my original plan. The next day, I took a subway tour, learning about the history of the transit system and how it shaped the city. It was a fascinating experience that gave me a deeper appreciation for New York's transportation network. Chapter 8: The Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. One of the most iconic landmarks of New York is the Statue of Liberty. I took a ferry to Liberty Island and stood before the statue, feeling awestruck by its grandeur. The views of Manhattan from the island were equally stunning, with the skyline rising majestically in the background. I also visited Ellis Island, the gateway to America for millions of immigrants. Walking through the Immigration Museum, I was moved by the stories of people who had come to America in search of a better life. The history of this place made me reflect on my own journey and how in many ways we are all immigrants in one form or another. Chapter 9: A Day in Brooklyn. After spending several days in Manhattan, I decided to venture into Brooklyn. I took a walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, enjoying the incredible views of the city and the East River. The bridge itself was a marvel of architecture, and I felt a sense of accomplishment when I made it to the Brooklyn side. In Brooklyn, I explored Dumbo Down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass, an area known for its cobblestone streets, trendy shops, and restaurants with views of the bridge and the Manhattan skyline. I enjoyed a delicious pizza at a local spot, another must-try while in New York. Chapter 10: The High Line and Chelsea Market. I spent a day exploring the High Line, an elevated park built on a former railway track. The park meandered through neighborhoods and offered incredible views of the city. Along the way, I stopped at art installations, flower gardens, and observation points. The contrast between nature and the city's architecture was beautiful. Afterward, I visited Chelsea Market, a foodie's paradise. I sampled everything from tacos to lobster rolls to artisanal chocolates. The atmosphere was vibrant, and the market felt like a microcosm of New York itself, diverse, exciting, and full of surprises. Chapter 11: A Night Out in New York. On my final night in the city, I decided to experience the nightlife. I went to a rooftop bar in Midtown where I could see the entire city sprawled out before me. The lights, the music, the people. It was a completely different side of New York. I mingled with locals, enjoyed some drinks, and took in the dazzling view of the Empire State Building lit up against the night sky. Later, I went to a jazz club in Greenwich Village. The intimate setting, the smooth sound of the saxophone, and the lively energy of the crowd made it the perfect way to end my trip. Chapter 12: The Final Farewell. As my time in New York came to an end, I felt a mix of emotions. I was sad to leave the city, but I knew I would carry the memories with me forever. New York had shown me so much, from its iconic landmarks to its hidden gems, from its rich history to its vibrant culture. I had experienced a city unlike any other. On my flight back home, I gazed out the window one last time as the city faded into the distance. I knew I would return one day, but for now, I was content with the memories I had made. New York had truly lived up to its reputation, and I couldn't wait to tell everyone about the incredible journey I had just had.